Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to share with you the entire preparation process for you to land a job at a MAANG company or a big tech company and start making around 200k a year. We are going to talk about how to optimize your resume so you actually book interviews and don't get 1000 rejections without having a clue about what you're doing wrong, and a way to hack the system in order to double your chances of booking the interview. Also, how all the people that are using lead code in order to prepare for the technical interviews are doing it wrong, and the correct way to go about it in order to reduce the time you spend on this process. How to ace the behavioral interview and impress any recruiter, hiring manager, and your future teammates. And finally, how to negotiate your salary the right way so we make sure that you don't lose 70k a year just because you forgot to watch this video until the end. And last step, how to celebrate and buy your dream car. And if you're interested in learning more about how to land your dream job at a MAANG company, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you wanna see behind the scenes footage and coding tips, then make sure to follow me on Instagram at @DeAndreiChiriac. Now let's start. First step is the resume preparation. And the golden rule of every resume is try to keep it only one page. The second tip is to customize the resume for a given job position, removing anything that is irrelevant. The third tip is never tell but show. For example, if you came to me in real life and told me that you just spoke on the Joe Rogan podcast and just had dinner with Justin Bieber, of course I'm not gonna believe you. You would have to show me a picture for that. This is the same as saying in your resume at the soft skills section that you have excellent communication and presentation skills. How should I know that? Instead, what you should do is prove that to me. For example, public speaking. I spoke at the JavaScript conference in Oslo in 2023. Another telling example is I led the iOS team with great communication and architectural skills. Prove that to me. Instead, say something like, I built and owned the entire hiring process for the iOS team from 1 developer to 5. And this last example brings me to my next point, which is show impact with metrics and statistics. Remember, you are not hired just to write some code, but to have some actual impact on that business. And you can showcase that impact using user metrics and statistics. For example, you can say something like, I led the iOS team for XYZ app, which has 500k downloads on the App Store, 150k plus active users, and 4.5 rating. In this way, any recruiter will understand and will actually be impressed by the technical complexity. Another good example is that instead of saying I wrote JUnit tests, which is not that impressive, you can say I drove the unit testing effort which reduced the bugs encountered by customers by 50%. Secondly, let's talk about the coding interview preparation. To be honest, if you're new to this, it's probably going to take you around 6 months to get to a premium level company, which are still amazing companies, but not exactly the MAANG tier. It can be banks like Bank of America or investment funds like Vanguard, but you can also do it faster. We had clients, one of them that actually came to my mind right now is Connor, who did it in 4 months. And from the premium company to MAANG, it will probably take you another 6 months because most of the topics are the same, but the difficulty of the coding questions is much harder. And also there are extra topics like dynamic programming, which we know is not easy and takes time to master. So it depends on your current level and obviously the amount of work and effort you put in. So prepare accordingly. So how to actually prepare for the interview? Go on LeetCode and solve 1000 random problems, right? Wrong. A better way to do this is find a list online like Blind75 or Grind75 where you have to solve only 75 questions that will cover most of the topics, so you optimize your time. But an even better way to do this is to have a smooth learning path or a curriculum which will take you step by step through all the necessary topics and concepts, and is optimized so that no jump between 2 lessons is too high and you don't feel overwhelmed by trying to solve a coding question which involves 5 different topics which you've never heard about and you have no clue on how to approach it. Another thing is that whenever you try to solve a coding question, make sure to set a hard timer of 40 minutes. It's super beneficial to try to solve the problem by yourself, but it's also super tempting to spend a lot of time without making any progress. And you don't want to waste entire days on only one coding question without having no idea at all. After 40 minutes, it's okay to take a hint or watch the solution. Then being able to solve coding questions alone is not enough. You need to be able to communicate your solution well and prove high skills, and for this I highly recommend to do mock coding interviews. And for this you can use platforms like interviewing.io or premp.com, in which you are going to hold live mock interviews with software engineers around the world. So these are people that definitely know what they do and they can give you very useful tips. Or you can find a partner to prep with and mock interviews with, which is awesome. Or even better, if you're a little bit more adventurous, you can do the mock interviews part directly with live interviews at companies that you're not so interested in. And a little bonus tip here, Python is king for coding interviews. So if you already know Python or you have enough time to switch to Python, I highly recommend it because its syntax is super compact, it's super fast to type Python code, and as you already know, coding interviews are pretty short, the problems are pretty hard, so it's super useful to double your coding speed if you can. The next part after you aced your interviews is salary negotiation. And the first tip that you might know is that you should always negotiate your salary. These companies and recruiters actually expect you to negotiate, so their initial offer will almost never be the highest one. How do you negotiate? Well, you have websites like Glassdoor.com, Levels.fyi and Teamline.com, in which a lot of real software development engineers post their salaries. So you should look on these websites at what the average employee at that position, even at that specific company, is making and use that number instead of coming up with a random one. Another important thing is to never tell recruiters how much you're actually currently making. They're gonna take that number, add a little bit on top of that, and that's gonna be their offer. Instead, say something like, I'm a top performer at my company, in my team, and I'm very highly compensated for that, so your offer should be substantially higher for me to accept it. And now, the most efficient way to negotiate a higher salary is to actually have another offer, especially from a competitor big tech company. This involves extra work. You'll have to make sure that you pass as many phone interviews as possible, and then you'll have to place your on-site interviews as close to each other as possible, preferably within a week, and you're gonna do some traveling around the world. But the beautiful thing about this is that you might end up with an initial offer from Google for, let's say, 170k a year, and then you're gonna have an offer from Facebook for, let's say, 200k a year. What do you do then? You go back to Google and you say, hey Google, I really want to work for you. I love your company, but Facebook just gave me 200k. Can you do something about it? And then Google comes back to you and they say, we really like you too. We want you in our team. Here's 230k. What do you do then? You don't stop. You go back to Facebook and you tell them, yo Facebook, I really like you more and I really want to work for you, but Google gave me 230k. Can you do something about your offer? And they'll come back with 250k. What do you do then? Go back to Google and do the process again. Unfortunately, you cannot do it an infinite number of times until your salary exceeds the one of the CEO. But I know people like Mircea, my co-founder, who added 70k a year to their salary just by knowing to negotiate. You aced the interviews, you boosted your salary, and now the best part, you spend all that money on a BMW and a motorcycle and you travel around the world. So this is the overview of the study plan for getting a job at a MAANG company. Now obviously there's a lot more to this process. You have to actually develop your thinking process and be able to solve coding questions using the master key trio. Gotta be able to use the captain's command technique to communicate through the whole process correctly in order to demonstrate soft skills, and you also need to be able to write high quality clean code using the Lego blocks method. So if you're interested in learning more about this and finally landing your dream job at a MAANG company, I have an entire program on this, which is the Tech Giant Incubator, and also a bonus tip which I haven't told you before is that the most efficient way to solve coding questions in order to progress faster is to proactively think about the question while having quality hints. So you read the problem statement and try to solve it by yourself. Spend 5 to 10 minutes max trying to come up with a solution, and if that doesn't work, read the first hint. That first hint will unlock the door for you to get new ideas and continue solving the question. You think for 5 to 10 more minutes, and if you have no idea, then you repeat the process and get another hint. You think for 5 to 10 more minutes, and if you still have no idea, you watch the third hint. And you repeat this process until you finally came to the solution by yourself. It doesn't matter after how many hints, it's still better than watching an entire solution without thinking about it at all. Or if you weren't able to solve the problem, no worries, then it's time to watch a quality video solution and really understand what's there and reflect on what you did well and what you did wrong. And that's exactly why within our program we built an entire system for you to be able to do that within the Algo Academy platform. So if you're really interested in landing your MAANG job, make sure to click the link on my description and I'll see you there. And by the way, I'm curious, how do you guys prepare for MAANG interviews? Is there something that I missed? Make sure to let me know in the comment section.